Oh,
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another mini. Amani, I'm trying to be you because you always do the intro. How did I do?
you did phenomenal. Keep going. Don't
Oh,
stop.
good. Welcome to another mini episode of Adventures in Business, where it is just Amani and I kibitzing and chatting, living and learning, and sharing our trips and our triumphs of how we are operating in this world with business and personal life.
Yes, very good.
Mhm.
And I believe we have a very interesting topic today. Share our topic and we can kind of talk about it.
Well, we just came up with this on the fly because Annie and I have been doing a lot of speaking the last couple of months. And as you can tell, my voice is gone right now. So it's speaking's on my mind. But we have a big session that we're doing together this Thursday at Weekend MPI. So the topic is speaking. All
Yes.
things speaking. So I've got some questions. I know you've got some questions. So I'm gonna, if it's cool with you, Monty, I'm gonna start with a question for you
Right.
of
It's cool with me.
it's cool with you? All right,
Yeah.
cool. What do you do? What is your prep like, your 48-hour prep before you go into a speaking engagement? So, and when I say prep, it could be physical prep, it could be sleeping, eating, drinking prep, it could be rehearsal prep. Like, what do you do 48 hours before you give a speech?
So usually by 48 hours out, I'll have like, if I have like a really long or extensive PowerPoint or deck done. So I'll just do a run through of it and time myself just sitting down, kind of doing it here, like an office or wherever. That's what I'll do, kind of 40 hours, just to make sure the timing is working, the slides make sense, they look good, it flows well. So that's what I'll do 48 hours before. Then maybe the day before, with if I travel, I'll probably do in the evening time, or if I'm here and it's a local one, I'll kind of stand and do it again, time myself again just to make sure it works. So that's kind of two run throughs there. In terms of sleeping,
Mhm. We
try
know you're working on your sleeping, Amani. That's your big goal for the
yeah,
year.
I try to get a good night's sleep. But what I found is that I can't sleep because I'm so nervous or excited. Really
Okay.
hard for me to get to sleep, particularly if it's like a really big one. I remember last year I was in DC and I was emceeing an event, and the night before I couldn't sleep because I was so excited and kind of nervous.
Mm.
So maybe if I've worked out earlier in that day, that'll help me be a little tired. But otherwise, I just try to get the rest as best I can. Because sometimes, especially if you're speaking in the morning, you don't want to oversleep. You don't want to do all sorts of stuff. You imagine that
Yeah.
you set 3 alarms, all of the above, and still you're kind of worried, like, I don't want to oversleep. You just have remember you used to have nightmares. Yeah, you had a couple nightmares when you were younger. Either you'd be in a place and you'd be completely naked and people were looking at you, or
Yeah.
you overslept somewhere and you show up late and they're like, "Oh, it's over. You missed it." So
Yeah.
that's
And
kind
they're
of
all
my
mad at you. They're
40,
mad. Yeah.
yes, 48-hour, 24-hour rituals in the sleeping patterns I try to use. What about you?
Well, I want to ask though, really quick, what about eating and drinking the day of? What about like, do you, if you have a speech at 2, do you eat beforehand? Do you not eat? Do you work out? Do you get fresh air? Do you have any mantras? Do you meditate? Like what happens the day of? Like, how do you get yourself like game ready?
So I try to if it's in the morning, I won't eat. Like if it's at 9 o'clock, I won't eat, just drink some water, but definitely try to go to the bathroom right before, right before we're supposed to be
Mhm.
backstage. If it's like at a 2 o'clock or afternoon speech, I'll try to at least eat maybe 2 hours before, something pretty simple, nothing too heavy, and drink some water. Um, Definitely get some fresh air before call time if it's nice weather outside, as long as it's not
Yeah.
raining or too cold, get some sun or whatever, go for a walk.
Mhm.
I like going for walks, so that's kind of my routine.
Yeah.
Um,
That's good. I like that routine.
okay, now what are your answers?
So I've got a thing like the week of a speech, and it's been tricky because this past month there's been weeks where I've had 2 or 3 in the same week. So it's been awesome, but I've had to modify my plans a little bit. But the week of a speech, no matter when it is, I always get 8 hours of sleep at night and I always drink lots of water and I keep my diet really clean because I don't want any indigestion. Nobody wants to be belching on stage, Money. Like, I don't want any, like, weird, like, hiccups or
Mhm.
indigestion. I don't wanna feel uncomfortable. So my whole thing is, like, how do I keep myself comfortable that week? So I really keep it clean with, what I eat, what I drink, how I sleep, and then, lots and lots of water. That's the week of. And then, 3 or 4 days before, I do practice twice a day. So, I'll practice a full run through twice a day. I time, retime, and then if I'm in a hotel room, so this is what I wanted to ask you. I have a preference. I used to like the lapel mic, but I don't like that anymore. I actually like using handheld mic.
Yeah.
And so when I'm in a hotel room, I practice with things in my hand. So like this remote control I have here, I practice with the hotel remote in my hand. Because I like to, I like to have that physical, like this is what it's going to feel like. And so I'll practice with certain props. If I know I have to turn a page, if I know I'm looking at a screen, if I know there's multiple screen, because there's so many setups. Some are highly technological where you've got a teleprompter, although I memorize most of my stuff, but like sometimes you're changing things on the fly and you
Mhm.
can't. And then there's no technology and you've just got like a script, like pieces of paper. So whatever whatever elements I'm working with, I try and practice that the week of with what I'm doing with my hands and what I'm doing with that actual physical thing. So I do that the week of. Timing. There's lots of timing and retiming because I feel like the worst thing you can do as a speaker is just go. You can go overtime a little bit if, like, this just happened to me a couple weeks ago. The entire conference was like 45 minutes off. And
Mm.
so the conference shaved 15 minutes off my speech, which I think most people would freak out. But I was like, okay, I could do this. But I told everybody from the beginning, like, this is technically supposed to break at 12:10. We're gonna break at 12:15 because this is supposed to be an hour and I just shaved 15 minutes. So, like, I just kinda let people know what's happening from the beginning. But yeah, timing, retiming, eating, drinking, water, sleep, very, very important. And then I like to do an Instagram post. I like to do a video the day
Mm.
before. And I like to show people behind the scenes. Like, I like to show them the script. Like, I'll do a little video of the script on the screen. If I've got props, because a lot of times I have props, I like to take a picture of the props. Or I like to be like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be speaking about this. Like, does anybody have any advice? Because I always get last minute tidbits from people, but I like people to see behind the scenes too. So
Yeah.
I'll do that. And then the day of, I always do a walk in the morning. I have to get fresh air. Most of the time when I'm walking, but if it's not a speech day, I always am listening to a podcast or some music. But on speech day, I have nothing in my ears. I let my brain be free and I'm kind of working stuff out in my mind and I'm getting fresh air. So I always do a silent walk the day of. And then, and then you get to your speech and you do your speech and everything's all good. But those are like little rituals. But I can't tell you the number of times I practice with the hotel remote control in my hand though. And it's every time I do it, I'm like, do you think other people do that? Like, do you think like people think this is silly? I've got a hotel remote control in my hand because I'm
Okay.
very tactile.
Yes.
I like to practice physically what it's gonna feel like too. Because
Yes.
I don't mind a stage. I'm great on a stage. I'm great with groups of people. The lighting's fine, but like it's those little things like the pick up and the drop off of things and the props that you're dropping things on the ground. Like that could make things go awry. So I like to have some physical practice with that.
Yes. Now, I want to ask a follow-up question that I want to share. Remind me to share with you the music that I might listen to on
Oh,
the day of a
okay.
speech. You said you like to memorize all your speeches. How
Yes.
do you do that, and what happens if you forget during your speech?
I always have a backup script. So if they have a teleprompter, I'll put it on the teleprompter, but I always, always, always have the script written out, unless it's one that I've done over. I have 3 speeches that I've done over and over and over, and now for those, I just have a set list. I call it the set list. So, when you go to a concert and you've got just the songs, that's literally what my one pager looks like. But if it's a new speech that I've written, I will have the whole thing written out on a script, and I'll have that on a podium. I always ask for a podium and a microphone. Even if I don't use it, it's just like a home base for my script.
Mhm.
I like to walk around. Um, But how do I memorize? I've always been really, really good at memorization, always. Like, I don't know if it was all the cheers I did, like, I was a cheerleader for so many years, you had to or the prayers, all the Catholics go to memorize so many weird prayers. Like, I don't know, but I've always memorized things, and my whole thing is, like, I know we just talked about this off camera. If you could nail the first 2 minutes of it, then everything else falls into place. Like there's something about it where it's about your confidence. So, like my advice to people out there that are starting to speak or they're petrified to public speak, memorize the first 2 minutes of whatever it is you're doing and then just know everything else will fall into place. Obviously, you need timing and everything else for
Right.
the rest of it, but it does so much for your confidence and it establishes something with the audience. It establishes you're prepared, you're here to engage, you're here to tell a story, you're here to help them, and I'm, like, really big on memorizing those first 2 minutes.
I remember when I had my acceptance speech for being president of MPI Southern California, I kinda I had stories that I was telling, so I had, like, my little set list of the stories I was gonna tell as I went through my speech.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the best speeches I ever have given because it
Aw.
wasn't memorized, I didn't have any slides, but I had my set list, that gave me a flashback to that. And I like
Yeah.
usually with my speech, I like to tell a story to begin. So as long as I
Mhm.
know my story and I can get through that, I don't have to worry about slides, and then we're off and running based on that. So that's interesting.
Yeah,
Now,
I think stories are important.
yeah,
Stories and I'm all about stories and stats, but in the intro, I do like to let people know what they can expect. I think there's something that makes people comfortable feeling like, "Okay, here's a story and here's the adventure we're about to go on." I like to let people know because then I think they can, like, sit back. Because sometimes, I don't know about you, I've been to speeches before where I'm watching and I'm like, "What when does the magic happen? What's going on here?" So I like to, give people a little roadmap before we start. And then I feel like as soon as you do that, I can physically see people like relax. Like they're like, okay, I'm sitting in on this one. Like I'm here for it kind of thing. But I'm with you. I
yeah.
like stories. What
I
about music? You just said that you've got
yeah.
some pregame music you listen to.
So a lot of times I'll listen to like different Mariah Carey albums just to listen to some songs just because I have a certain songs I
Ooh.
love. Just
Like
because
what
it
song?
means so much to me. It goes all the way back from like Emancipation of Mimi. There's a couple songs on Ribbon. There's a couple
Ooh.
other songs I just kind of flip through them and just just makes me so happy. So I listen
Aw.
to those too. Usually right before whatever. Um, yeah, yeah. So that's the music part there. That's what I do there, and then we're off and running.
That's so fun. I can you talk a little bit about because I think this is a differentiator for you, and I love it. I was just thinking about it this morning, how you have this thing with a lot of your clients where you're the opening DJ at their opening reception, and then the next day you're moderating a panel that's either before or after the keynote. Can you share that? Because I think that's unique, and I think we need it more in the meeting space, meaning
Yeah.
not meeting space, but the actual meetings industry.
Right, I just did that for California Charter School Association. I was the opening DJ for their opening reception and played the music, saw the people were dancing, laughing, having a good time, and then the next morning, I was moderating the, conversation that we had, and I just like to use that first to allow me to be a little bit more marketable and to help the client maybe save a little bit of money, so sort of, but just give myself an advantage and it's something different that I can do. And then I think I've done it one other time when I was also a keynote or breakout speaker. And it just works because people get to be familiar with me. They say, "Oh, I remember you." I reference it in my speech or whatever. I say, "By the way, if I look familiar, I was the DJ at your opening reception." People are like, "Oh, yeah, I remember you." And
It's
so
fun.
I think it's cool. It's a very unique selling proposition. I guess I'm saying it right that I can offer, and
Mhm.
that's what's involved. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you do that. It's cool. It's good. It's very helpful for planners. It's
Yeah.
cool for attendees to be like, "Oh, that's our guy. He's with us,
Yeah.
he's in it to win it." I think that's really cool.
Exactly. Triple threat, baby. Triple threat. That's what I'm trying to sell.
Triple
Triple threat.
threat.
Yes. So what we'll do next week for our minis, we might have some takeaways and feedback and just lessons learned from our session that we're going to do at WeCon in Newport Beach. We're really excited about that session. It's going to be a good hour long. So I think next week we'll share some, kind of a day in the review or review what happened.
A life in the review. Really quick before we end, because this will be fun, because we'll have this and then we'll have the post show.
Mhm.
What are you nervous about for our session together on Thursday? Or anything you're
Uh,
tentative about or that you don't have resolved yet? Like, not excited, but, like, cautious about?
it's always a little tricky. We're using a lot of technology. We're using a lot of technology, so we just want everything to be seamless and work well. But we've done this before and it's worked. So I'm not. I just always get a little bit nervous about technology, but that's probably it. Yeah, that's it.
Wow,
Oh.
that's great. That's
Mhm.
great to have that
What
just
about
one thing you're
you?
worried about. That's great. I'm not worried about the technology at all. I should be, but I'm not. I feel like
Mhm.
I feel like we can always work around it. Like, "Oh, that's just technology." The
Yeah.
only thing I am worried about is timing because 'cause we've got 10 to 15 minutes in the front end to give our presentation, and then we've got 3 10-minute interviews, and then we wanna give the right amount of time for everybody's Q&A. So, I think if we stick to that 15 minutes on the front end, I think everything else will be good on the back end. So, I just wanna make sure we're not rushed through it. We're providing knowledgeable, nuggets that people can actually use and that we're not doesn't make us rush into the interviews. So that's my only worry. I'm sure it'll be fine, but I
All right.
think our rehearsal today will help with that too.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
So make sure everyone tune in to our next meeting where we'll recap what happened. Make sure to share this with your friends and colleagues who you think could benefit. Rate, review, and like us on all the platforms that you listen to podcasts on. And with that, we say thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.